facts that have been personally weighed and found to be true to the best of one's ability or knowledge, a belief, confidence, feeling, a view, or a belief or opinion that is strongly held. I like to think of it more as an opinion that is strongly held. Belief is the confidence in the truth or existence of something not immediately susceptible to rigorous proof, such as faith, feeling, trust, or an idea thought of as true. That's a conviction. Then we have truth. We have conformity with fact or reality, a verified or indisputable fact, proposition, or the like. As authenticity, it's agreement with the facts or what is real. But then within truth, we actually have two kinds: reliance on one's own mood, attitude, opinions. And it's sometimes referred to as humanism. Mavis's definition is formed or existing in a person's mind rather than in the world outside. Then we have objective truth. So they build on each other. If that belief is based on a subjective truth, that objective truth, that objective truth is built on those two bottom foundations. One of those is standards. Objective truth will be built on standards. Those standards will include things such as common definitions. Without a definition, then everything becomes subjective then, subject to your interpretation. But if there's a common definition, something that everyone understands, that becomes one of those standards. Standards also include context, because there may be times where this is true given these parameters. It may not be true outside of those parameters, but it is always true within these given parameters. So you have a context there that becomes part of those standards to form this objective truth. And finally, you'll see consistencies within those standards. An objective truth will always be true. It will always be true within the context. So you may have some parameters there that have to be met, but it will always be true within that context. The whole idea of standards implies that there was an authority that established those standards. There has to be someone or something that established that these standards are true. What we see in the Bible, we see, I think, no, I didn't lose it. Okay. We see the Bible as the standards. The authority that established those standards is God Himself. Does that make sense? If we have standards that apply, that will always give us definitions, they'll give us context, and they will give us consistencies. If you have that, that also implies there was an authority to establish those standards. And those standards, you may think of it as the standards may be the laws of physics. You know, you have one of Newton's laws. First law, that for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction. That's always true. And that standard is defined by that Newton's law, the law of physics. But again, that is true because God made it true. You have that authority that established that. Let's turn the page there and we'll look at subjective truth. Remember, what's subjective truth now? What is that? We're not going to go on until somebody answers. I'm sorry? Yeah, subjective truth is a perceptional belief. I like that terminology. It's based on the individual's perception of things. So let's look at this diagram. In subjective truth, the opinion is the most important thing. My opinion, what do I think about it? How do I interpret this? The opinion is the most important segment here, as opposed to subjective truth, objective truth, where the authority and the belief, and then you have the subjective truth. What you don't have is this level of standards, and you don't have an authority. Because the standards are all dependent on the opinions of the person. So you don't have common standards. So, Bob, what you say about something may be totally different than what Rena says about something. And in their mind, in each of them's mind, what they are saying is true because they're relying on a subjective truth. You don't have the bottom layer, that unifying layers, the foundation to define. Well, maybe, would you like an extra copy to take home to her? That all brings me back to the purpose of our little exercise at the beginning. Which one was easier to stand for 15 seconds? When you had a firm foundation or when you were trying to balance on one foot? Which is easier to stand on? Yeah, subjective truth that we may see every day. What happens to a society that is based on subjective truth? Very divided. I would say yes and no. There are still some things that are objective. What about traffic laws? If well, some people say that 75 mile an hour speed limit doesn't really mean that. Not for me. But you pull up to a stoplight without some form of objective laws. It's a free for all. It's like driving in Europe,